Orcust support is finally here. Hello guys and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, we're taking a look at Orcust with the new support coming to Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, and there's not actually a whole lot in regards to the new Orcust support. It's actually just two notable cards. I think there's technically more support, but realistically the only cards that actually matter are Galatea, or Galatea, however you say this, the Link 1 monster, which is all you need to know about it, and the Link 4 and Lingirsu, which is quite a solid end boss monster. So that's pretty much the only two cards that actually matter from what previously was happening with the Orcust stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We still have access to things like Nightmare Mermaid, which the TCG didn't have, and if you don't know, in both the TCG and the OCG, which I think the OCG also didn't have Nightmare Mermaid, Orcust was, for a time, a top deck. It wasn't ever the best deck, but it was at the very least competitive enough to win events. So take that with a grain of salt. That being said, the reason it's so powerful, as you can see by what I have shown here, is that it is very splashable. The most notable splashable engine with it was actually the light deck in Fiendsmith, because both Fiendsmith and Orcust can kind of just convert bodies into additional link material, notably into things like Moon in order to do the full Fiendsmith line. So you could use your things like Girsu in order to do the full Fiendsmith line. So that was generally the idea. On top of that, Tracked is very solid for this deck because you can go Tracked, search out a Fiendsmith monster, or Lurie, and then just like pitch an Orcust instead, which is also something. So yeah, pretty solid. I'm just going to show you real quick what the deck does. However, first and foremost, let's actually go over what the new cards do. Galatea, the Orcust Automaton, is a Link monster that requires a Link 1 monster that requires an Orcust or a World Legacy monster. Cannot be used as an Exe material. This does come up. And you can send one card from your hand to the graveyard. This is an ignition effect, not an on-summon effect. In order to add either a World Legacy monster or a Babble, orchestrated Babble, from your deck or grave to your hand. Then, if this card is in the grave, you can just banish another Orcust to reborn it, because of course it's actually two materials for some reason. So, very, very solid. Also, because it's an Orcust, it means you can go into things like the Galatea, etc. On top of that, you can go into this guy, which just requires 2+ monsters, including an Orcust Link monster. Now what this guy does is, you can target one of your banished Orcust or World Legacy cards and add it to your hand. Then, you can shuffle a card from your hand into the deck and take control of a face-up monster your opponent controls. Notably, doesn't target. But the important thing here is twofold. One, you get your material back. So, for example, if you start with something like Girsu, you can actually banish it throughout your combo, for example, to summon this guy back, in order to then add it back to your hand for follow-up on the following turn, which is very nice. On top of that, during the main phase, if this card is in the grave, because it was sent there from the extra monster zone this turn, you can banish this card to send a card on the field to the grave. So, you do have the ability to, like, link it off for something as another way of board breaking. So that's another thing that you can do. And overall, the engine itself is pretty small, but pretty powerful, because what you can end on is things like Babble and Crescendo in order to get you both Dingirsu as a non-target send, as well as potential protection for your board, as well as a Omni Negate Counter Trap, which is again very powerful. And it's a negate and banish, not negate and destroy. So I'm going to show you generally what this deck is aimed to do and what it can accomplish. And yeah, obviously the Mitsu cards are also capable of being paired with this. A lot of people currently are playing the Mitsu cards. I'm not going to show you what those do. You should probably know, at least in some capacity, why Mitsu can be paired with this. And yeah, they're also all dark, which makes them very, very good at being splashable with the Orcust stuff. That being said, I'm going to show you the Fiendsmith stuff because I think it's a lot more interesting in what it actually accomplishes. So let's hop into those replays. Alright, so here we are with Girsu, which is the best starter in the deck. And this is why. We're going to start off here with Girsu. We're going to send the Orcust Harp Horror, and then Girsu has an effect that just generates 2 tokens, one to your field and one to your opponent's field. We all should know why this is overpowered. First of all, you put a token on the opponent's side of the field, now they have a guy that they can't really do anything with. Fantastic. You'll love to see it. Technically, they could use it for link material, but it cuts off things like Lightning Storm, Imperm, Fuwas, etc. Or I should say Molcharms, right? However, we also generate another token for ourselves, which is very nice. Now we're going to go into the Galatea, or Galatea, and we're going to activate the effect. We're just going to pitch a card. I'm going to pitch this Maxi, and we are going to add to our hand the World Crown. World Crown just special summons itself to a Link Zone. So we're going to special summon it to the Link Zone here, and we are going to then go into our Fiendsmith line. Yay, we get to go for Moon. Moon is going to go into Requiem here, and then we're going to activate the effect of the Requiem, and we are going to summon out our Lacrima. Lacrima effect is going to activate, and we are going to send to the graveyard the Boy Engraver, and now we can use these two for a myriad of different things. First and foremost, we could go into the Nightmare Phoenix in order to go into Nightmare Mermaid, which gets us more Orcust stuff, as well as potentially goes then into things like Lib, or we could just go straight into Lib. If you don't know, Lib does require us to play a brick. However, it's a pretty solid brick, because it's World Legacy Succession. So what you do is you summon her with any two monsters, as long as a World Legacy card is in the grave. Hey, that's a World Legacy card. And what it does is you just target a monster in your grave, special summon it to a Link Zone. That's it. It's just a monster reborn. So we're going to grab ourselves the Moon, and then we can make, because for some reason this card is still not banned, Apollosa. Yeah, we can still make Apollosa. Now on top of that, Lib also has the ability where if it's linked off, or if it's sent to the graveyard, I should say, as linked material, you can shuffle a card on the field into the deck. So we can just shuffle away a card. Now it's gone. We're not going to do that, but alas, we can. Now, from this position, we can actually activate our Fiendsmith card in order to reborn it. And we can also activate our Galatea in order to reborn it as well. And now we can go into our sequence under the Apo, which is very nice. We can activate the sequence effect, and we can go into Desiree 1, 2, and 3. Out comes the Desire. And now we can actually just lock ourselves into darks. So we're going to activate the effect of our Orcust Harp Horror, and from this position we're going to grab up the Orcust Nightmare, and then here we can link off these two in order to go into Galatea. We're going to activate the effect of the Galatea, we're going to shuffle back ourselves the Harp Horror, and we are going to set a spell trap. We're going to set specifically Babel. We could have searched it earlier in the combo if we wanted to as well. Say for example we already had the Fiendsmith line, we could have instead of searching World Crown, we could have searched out the Babel. There's a bunch of different things that you can do from each position, which is why it's so nice to play this deck. Every piece of the board can kind of pivot into a bunch of different things, so you're not really locked in one capacity or another, which is nice. But now we're going to equip here. We're going to then activate the effect of the Orcust Nightmare. We're going to target specifically the Apo, because we can boost it by 800 by sending the World Wand, and World Wand is just going to reborn another Dingus here. We're going to reborn the Dingus. We're going to then use the Galatea in order to go into Dingirsu, and the Dingirsu is going to yoink up one of the guys from the Banish Zone. We're going to yoink. And then we are going to link these off into SP. And that's it. That's the end board. Now, this does require some discards, so it's not like you're going to have specifically this end board every time, but it is something of note, like, right, you have at least some cards in your hand that you can potentially use, right? But notably, what this actually does is it allows you to use Dingirsu as a non-target send, as well as all of the other stuff on your board, which is very, very solid. On top of that, you have a very good amount of follow-up as well, due to all of the crap that's in your grave, right? The Galatea, which I believe is actually a once per duel. No, I'm just lying to you. You have the Galatea, you have the World Wand to reborn something like your Nightmare Mermaid, or not Nightmare Mermaid, Orcust Nightmare, and what have you. So you're kind of off to the races from there. And then again, any additional thing that you have, like for example, here we can activate the Habakiri and we can summon out the Saji. And we can just tribute off the Saji here and then do the full Mitsu line. So we go for Saji here, and we're going to add the field spell, or not the field spell, the ritual spell, because all of these are dark for some reason. And we're going to ritual summon here. Ritual summon from hand, or from hand, tributing from deck. We're going to tribute these two. Out comes the Habakiri. And then we get to activate, none of these actually, I'm lying to you. Anyway, beside the point. You could do the full Mitsu line. I just messed it up. But there you go. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. So real quick, I just want to go over just some additional things that you could potentially be doing. First and foremost, of course, you could play Long Gearshu as well, which is something of note. This guy's very impactful as well, just being a non-target, technically a non-target send. And he's a quick effect as well, due to the fact that you have access to Babel and stuff like that. You could also play, of course, things like Paradise, which you saw previously, and all of the Mitsu cards, and there's a ton of other non-engine that you can play as well. Obviously, Mitsu is going to be the better version of the deck instead of the Fiendsmith stuff, but the Fiendsmith stuff technically has a higher power end board, technically speaking, right? Because, you know, Apo. But that being said, you could also make Apo without the Fiendsmith stuff, so there's that. All in all, yeah, this deck is just very powerful due to Galatea just being a bunch of material for this deck. It's very cool, and each end board is very different. I could show you a bunch of different variations of the end board and the combo and all of that stuff, just due to, like, very specific starters, right? The difference between this guy and this guy and this guy are all, like, different starters and stuff like that. It's very cool, very unique. But yeah, that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye.